What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Love and Rice Podcast with your host, Aunt Ma.
I'm your other host, Christina.
And if you guys have not subscribed yet and you're new to this podcast, make sure to go to all of our podcast platforms. We're on Spotify, Apple, Amazon, Google,
iHeartRadio.
Our Heart Radio.
A pirate podcast station.
Make sure you guys just follow us on those podcast platforms. Also on YouTube, where you can watch these videos and listen at the same time. And
we're also on Instagram
Yes.
at Love and Rice Podcast.
on TikTok and Instagram.
Yep.
Okay.
Everywhere.
So I hope you guys have been enjoying these podcasts. We just came back from a meet and greet yesterday in LA.
Yes.
Thank you guys for coming to June B in Rolling Heights. It was a pleasure to meet you guys. We'll be doing way more in the future. So if you didn't have the chance to come by and say what's up, we will, you got to follow us on Instagram.
To get updates.
We'll post about it when the next one's coming. But there is one more coming sometime this year. So shout out to everyone who said they listened to the podcast. And, I'm very grateful that we get to do this all the time and that you guys actually listen. You listen to it at work, at home, while you're cleaning and whatever it is that you guys do. Thank you for letting it run. And this episode is going to be a little bit difficult for us. We're going to be talking about the roughest times of our life and how to overcome that. How to overcome the lowest point in your life, because we've all been through the worst times of our lives, right? We've been at rock bottom and it's just so hard to get out of it. And sometimes it's fast to get out of it or it takes a long time. And we've been through a lot.
Yeah, and sometimes it feels like it's never going to end and you're just going to be in this like depressed cycle like for the rest of your life.
Yeah, and I want to get to that and talk about what the actual things we went through, how we got out of it, and how long it took, because everyone's been in this situation, right? Some worse than others.
And some people take things more lightly, but some people get hit really hard depending on what the situation is.
Yeah. So I'll start first.
Okay.
I think the hardest time of my life was when I was 18. Yes, I was 18.
Yeah, I think it's pretty crazy that you remember your age too.
Because that's how hard it was.
That's how traumatic it was.
You know what I mean? Yeah, it was so traumatic. So that's the correct word to use. So basically when I was 18, there was this 1 month in my life where 4 people died.
That's rough.
And I went to 3 out of 4 funerals in that month. I didn't go to all 4. Because by the time the 4th one happened, I had to stop myself from going to funerals. When I was 18, it got to the point where I've been to more funerals than I've had birthdays. So it was really hard. It was like a few people within a week, and then another one the next week, and then the next week. So some people were not that close to me and some were, and I'll talk about it right now. So the first one, it was a coworker. It wasn't traumatic yet.
Okay.
It was just like life happens, right? So this was a coworker. I was working in the escrow office at this time. I was an escrow assistant. I was 18 years old, and I would go to her desk quite often, and she was this older lady, probably in her, I would say, 50s or 60s.
Yeah.
And one day she stopped showing up to work, and I was like, "Hey, what happened to her?" And she was in the hospital, and then they found out she had cancer.
Oh, wow.
Okay, I don't remember what kind of cancer it was, but then all within like that week, it went from hospital to what is that called? Is it hospice care?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so she was pretty much at the end of her life, right?
Okay, so they're taking care of her just until
Yeah,
she's
so it
ready
was
to go.
right, and it was such a shock to me, right? And this is the part that traumatized me the most, is when I went to go visit her on literally her last days.
Oh, you actually went to visit her.
Yeah, she was laying in the bed, She was not conscious,
Mm.
and she was just gasping for air the whole time. Like she's laying there and she's going
Uh,
nonstop.
I've experienced
You
that.
know, and seeing that in person, you're like, oh my god,
Mm-hmm.
this is horrible. Like to see someone go through this much pain, right? And as an 18-year-old kid watching someone, it's almost like watching someone die in front of you.
It's almost like watching your parents in a sense because of like the age range that they're at too.
Yeah.
So it's kind of crazy.
So after seeing that, I'm like, I never ever want to see someone go through cancer again,
Mm-hmm.
gasping for their last
Did you
breaths.
go on your own?
I don't. I
Or
might
maybe
have.
with other coworkers?
You know, I think I went with my coworker,
Okay.
who also later on passed.
Oh wow.
But that was actually a couple years later,
Wow.
and this was our old neighbor's brother that passed. That's another story.
Oh my gosh.
So
yeah.
okay, so I just went through this traumatic experience of watching someone go through that, right?
Pretty much taking their last breath.
Yeah. And then in that same week, when I'm at home, I get a phone call in the middle of the night from a friend that's crying, and she's telling me that, hey, the homie just got shot.
Mm.
Okay. So my friend was at a party. I was supposed to go. I ended up not going, and he mistakenly got shot and then executed. And the other homie had to drive him to the hospital all bloodied up in his car seat because it would be faster.
Yeah.
So what happened was he was at this party and he was in front of the house, and some people thought he was a gang member,
Mm-hmm.
and he wasn't. And he ran to his car to grab something. And as he was running away, they shot him on both back shoulders.
Wow.
And then he fell down. And then the gunman walked up to my friend, and they saw that, oh, this is not the guy we wanted, and then shot him in the head.
Wow.
Okay. And so my friend who was with him picked him up, put him in his car, drove him to the hospital. And this is where I get the phone call, like, hey, he's in the hospital. And I'm like, hey, I need to go visit him right now. This is like one of my best friends at the time.
Yeah.
We see each other every day. We talk to each other every day. And, I think 2 months prior to that, we kind of stopped hanging out for a bit because I started working and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
And then I started hanging out with my dad a little bit more, playing basketball. And he calls me at night and he's like, hey, can we go hang out? I'm like, yeah, sure. And then we never did, So that was my last conversation I had with them. I didn't even get to see him at the hospital
Yeah.
because my friend said that his family said no visitors.
Oh wow. Probably because of the state that he was in.
Yeah, it was bad.
Yeah.
They didn't want people to see him like that.
Why did you guys ever find out why they executed him when they found out it was the wrong person? Like why didn't they just let him go knowing that, it wasn't
No
who they were
one,
looking for?
no one knows the reasons of those decisions.
That's interesting.
I never found out who it was until I met somebody one time who said they heard about that story
Yeah.
and the person was gloating about it after.
Wow.
And, this was like, okay, so what's traumatic about this experience is that I just lost my best friend from 18 to about, every day I would think about him.
Mm-hmm.
Every day I think about my friend who died. And from 18 to about, I don't know, maybe 32 or 35 years old, I thought about him every single day. So I never got over it.
Yeah, I think even when we first met and throughout the relationship, I know that was something that was always brought up.
Yeah.
So I felt like that was just like a huge traumatic experience for you.
Yeah. There was not a single day where I did not think about him.
Yeah, and I feel like
So-
that's something that you just don't get over, really.
This is what this episode is going to be about and how I really overcame this experience.
Yeah.
So the reason why I thought about it every day was one, I didn't get to see him at the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
Then we go to his funeral. It's the worst. Dude, when someone gets murdered, those are the worst funerals ever. I've been to so many different kinds, and that is absolutely the worst. Everybody is bawling, and especially because he's a kid,
He's so young. Yeah.
right? And the part that made it more traumatic was that after the funeral, he was one of those guys that was born in Taiwan, and then when he was a kid, he came over, stuff like that. And so eventually, his mom moved him back to Taiwan because she moved back. That was her only son. There was no reason for her to be in the States anymore for
And they
him to have a
probably
good life.
wanted to move out here. Yeah.
Move
to give
out
him
here
opportunities.
for the school, have a good life,
Jeez.
and that happens. So now
Yeah.
she moves back and takes him with her.
That's
Now
so
I can
sad.
never ever visit my friend at the cemetery again because he's gone. I don't even know his mom. I don't know how to contact. Like, I can't even visit. If I do, it's somewhere in Taiwan, and I somehow have to find the information,
Yeah.
and no one really knows. So knowing that, that's another reason why, like, I can't visit my friend anytime. The last time I saw him was at the funeral.
Yeah, there's no like real closure in a sense.
No, he just left.
Yeah.
And and then I was supposed to be there that day, and I would have been with him, right? Whether it was with him getting shot, watching him getting shot, or taking him to the hospital, I was supposed to be there during that moment. So, I probably cried every day for at least 10 years. After the 10-year mark, it was just thoughts and sadness and, not really a depression. It was just sad. And until it was about 35 years old, we went to go see a therapist,
Yes.
right? For our
ourselves.
personal problems, our marriage issues. We went to go see a therapist.
Right. And the crazy thing was that he wasn't an actual therapist that we saw, because usually people have this like stigma of what it is. They think like, oh, you're gonna go see this marriage counselor or this marriage therapist and you're gonna be just like writing things down and trying to work on the relationship only. But like for this, it was kind of like seeing a doctor that helps to find like the root cause of issues. And with all the present issues that we had within our relationship or with friendships and things like that, like we would find why all these issues were happening and how we got to that point.
Yeah, he adds some like physical therapy type stuff to. I forgot what it's called. It's like kinesiology.
Kinesiology.
Okay, so it's sort of like a scientific mix with some.
It's a lot of spiritual healing in a sense. So it's like kind of like we were talking about the pulling the arrows right out of your heart to try to like heal yourself. So it's kind of like that, but he's like pulling other things, or he's using certain like methods of touch and like using natural elements like wood.
So basically, what he's saying is that when you have trauma in you, you're bottling up inside you, and certain parts of your organs is holding that type of trauma, whether it's your gut or your liver or whatever it is, right? And so this therapist would be like, what happened at 18 years old? And I'll tell him the story, and he'll tell me like, hey, it's not your fault. You're gonna be okay to move forward, things like that. And then he would put some type of machine on you to push the pressure out. And after some kind of like spiritual thing, you can feel relieved after, like it's gone. And after that moment, I would still think about him, but not every day.
Yeah, because you're processing it differently now, because like the thought is still there, but the trauma has been released. So when you're going through this kind of therapy, you have to like envision what happened at a certain point in your life, why it happened, why it triggered you, and then you have to be okay with it. So before we would leave these sessions, like we would have to be able to clear the air before we can move forward to the next thing.
So I was able to find peace in that trauma, and that's what allowed me to stop thinking about it every day and being sad and crying.
Yeah, and I think when you go through these sessions, you just start to understand that like a lot of the issues that you have like with other people, it's not necessarily having to do with that person, right? So like if we were having marital issues, it wasn't like you being a certain way because of me. It was more so of like whatever trauma you were holding on to that you needed to like forgive yourself or to let go of. So it's like whatever you went through, you were acting that way because of what you went through in your childhood, if that makes sense.
Right. There's always some sort of root of the problem, and he wants to find the root. And so basically, I don't think a regular therapist would have been able to help me with this. It would still be in the back of my mind. And it literally took me 17 years to find peace in this situation. 17 years.
That's a long time, yeah.
I went through hell for 17 years because my best friend died. And so that was, 2 deaths in that month that we're talking about. And let's go back into this month where the third one happened. And it was my grandpa. My grandpa fell down the stairs, hit his head, was unconscious. That's traumatizing too. That was my first grandparent who passed away. So I've only had 3 grandparents in my life. I've had 1 grandpa and 2 grandmas. I never met my other grandpa, which was my dad's dad, because he passed away in his early 30s.
Yeah.
So I never met him. Right? My dad was 8 years old when his dad passed away. But this grandpa on my mom's side, it's a shock when you hear your grandparent pass away, but it's adding to the trauma that I've had that month.
Yeah, because you've already experienced how many deaths, and now you're dealing with another one.
Yeah. So now I'm just like extremely upset, and I'm crying at work and stuff like that. And it's hard.
And you're 18, so you kind of you fully understand like the concept of like life and death,
Oh, I understood it way early because I've been like, when I think I was in elementary school, I was going to a few funerals already.
Oh, wow. Yeah, because even for me, like when I had my great grandma and my grandpa pass away, like I was still young to a certain extent, like with my great grandma. So I knew that I was going there like for like to see them because they passed away, but I didn't really understand like, okay, what's going to happen next? Like I'm never going to see them again, or like how is it going to be? So it's like not mature enough to be able to process exactly like what's happening after.
My grandpa's death wasn't traumatizing in the fact that like, hey, your grandpa passed away. It's like I know that's gonna happen because he's old, right? So it's coming. But this wasn't a traumatizing part in that situation. This is more of like some kind of enlightenment that I saw. So when he was in the hospital unconscious and stuff, and we're waiting for him to pass, right? He's off ventilators and things like that.
Wow.
So it's just whenever it happens.
Yeah.
And we're, I'm in San Francisco at the time because that's where they live. And, I'm sharing a room with my mom. And she has siblings living in other homes and stuff. And she gets a phone call in the middle of the night. And the first thing she says is, "Did you feel that?" To her brother. And so every sibling knew when their dad passed.
That's so interesting.
They got some sort of electric pulse run through everybody. And everyone felt some energy and knew that he was gone.
Like the moment that it happened, when he was in the hospital?
He was in the hospital. Everyone was at home in their own homes.
Yeah.
She felt something and the phone call came.
Yeah, because your family has this like, I don't know what it is, like a sixth sense that runs in the family. Like everyone kind of just has experienced it. I don't know if it's their whole lives or most of their lives. But
that's crazy though.
For them to know that like, oh, I think he just passed away because of whatever feeling it is. Because some people might just brush it off and be like, oh, that was weird. What is it? But like for your parents to actually know and like call their siblings, that's insane.
Well, I mean, one probably got the phone call from the hospital and then starts calling all the other siblings and they have these inner talks.
But I mean, just for one person to know like, oh, I think this is connected to dad and reach out to everyone else and everyone else is like, oh shit, like I felt that too. That's so weird.
So I looked up a lot of things about death and what happens to the person when they die. And, there's a lot of science behind it.
Yeah.
It says that I don't know what it was exactly, your aura or something explodes and that energy goes out into the universe.
Right.
And it goes everywhere. So that's why like people say, oh, I can feel this person here or there.
Right.
And like they're, they go into people's dreams or whatever. And there's just so much going on. It's because they're everywhere. It exploded, their energy. So maybe that's what happened, and I don't know. But I just think that was the craziest thing to hear as a kid,
Yeah.
you know? And so now by the time the fourth person passed away in this month, I was like, okay, no more funerals.
Yeah.
This is too much for me. So that was the hardest month in my life.
Who was the fourth person?
It was a distant family member.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So I was like, it's okay.
Yeah.
This is the time when I realized I don't have to go to every funeral.
Right.
Now I'm gonna pick and choose because it's too many.
That was a lot within a month. I can't even imagine that.
Yeah. While going to school, going to work and stuff.
And trying to
you
be
know.
functional.
This is the same year where I got kicked out of school for not being able to concentrate, stuff like that. So that was definitely one of the hardest times of my life.
Yeah.
And I didn't really go through a depression per se. It was just more of pain and sadness.
Yeah.
And so there are some another experience that I have that's pretty head to head, but I want to hear yours. And, what is the hardest time of your life?
Yeah, so I feel like I've had a lot of hardships and a lot of different experiences, and I feel like I've talked about these a lot already.
Like what?
Well, it's just like I think it's just going through the friendships and like betrayals of people and like always being that one person that gets outed and being left out and then just having like everyone turn against you. And I feel like that always I don't know if that like
So I've been through those experiences too, but that's like little kid stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that's on a smaller scale. Like when you are that young, those are really heavy emotions, right? The betrayal. But it's nothing like death.
But it's completely different, but it's still things that still traumatize you and still can affect you up until like our years now, right? Like we still go through things like that where it's like friendships are questioned and you always have that in the back of your mind, like why does this keep happening? And why is it when you try to be this good person, like it still ends up biting you in the ass. Yeah. But other than that, like I would say, I've been through a lot of hardships with friendships. I've talked about my ex and my best friend, which, I've talked about that so many times.
This was probably like 2 or 3 podcasts ago.
Yes, because it's a traumatizing thing. But like there was another relationship that I was in, and I think it was very traumatizing for me because I was with a friend's brother, like her older brother. And I don't remember how old I was. I was like early 20s. He was probably late 30s. But like when we got together, like he was like this obsessive, crazy person.
When you got together?
Yeah, when we got together.
That's a red flag, right?
Yeah. But then I was so young and I was like, oh, this is cool. Like this is kind of fun. And I didn't realize like how toxic it was from the start to like see how like attached he got in the beginning and how protective he was. And I was like, oh, he just loves me so much. Like he just wants to make sure that I'm okay and taken care of and stuff like that. But it got to the point where like I just started noticing that it was so toxic and it was to the point where it's like kind of scary for me, where it's like he's trying to be overprotective to the point where he was controlling me and trying to keep me from like talking to other people, wouldn't let me do things. He would like want to control like every part of my life and what I'm doing.
What was the feelings that you're going through, or what was going through your mind?
I mean, at first I was like, oh, okay, like he's older, he's almost like gonna be 30, right? So maybe that's just how they are when they're older. They just want to take care of you and make sure you're safe all the time. And I was just like, oh, this is great. But after a while I was just like, oh, this is becoming too much. Like I felt like I couldn't do anything. I couldn't go anywhere. I couldn't talk to people. He always wanted to know where I was. And like he wouldn't let me talk to certain people. Like he just wanted me to like cut people off. And it came down to like even me not being able to talk to like my brother or something and stuff like that.
That's weird.
Yeah, because he knew that like towards the towards like in the middle of the relationship, like everyone started to see how crazy he was. Like he broke so many of my phones and stuff. Like he would slam it on the ground just so that I wouldn't be able to talk to anyone.
Yeah.
And with my parents seeing that, like they're just like, okay, like this is getting really bad. Like you need to leave him. And at one point, like we were only together for a year.
Yeah.
So a lot of things happened within a year. And I kept trying to leave him, but like I couldn't. He wouldn't allow me to. And he would just like I would just drop him off because we would get in this heated argument, and this would happen a few times. I'll lock my car doors and I'll try to leave, but he wouldn't let me. Like he'll jump in front of the car, he'll jump on top of the car, he'll start like punching the car window, and like he wouldn't let me go back to my parents.
That's crazy,
yeah.
man. For a 30-year-old man to be doing that.
Yeah. And I didn't know what to do. And my friend didn't know what to do. So it was like kind of like a weird situation because she was in the middle, and I would talk to her and she's like, you need to leave him. You should not be with him. Like he's crazy.
Yeah.
And like with that relationship, I think it tainted our friendship too. Like we couldn't talk anymore. Like she felt weird, and then like he was just crazy.
She thinks you're crazy for being with a crazy guy.
Yeah, but she doesn't know that like he's not letting me leave, and I'm like naive, and I'm like not telling her exactly everything that's happening until like it's too late, right?
Right.
And then it got to the point where there was one time where I really tried to end the relationship, and I was trying to take him back home, like to drop him off because I was just done, right? Because he...
Wait a minute here. Why is he 30 years old and you're in your 20s, but you're driving him around?
So...
What is going on here?
So he was like... He didn't have a car at the time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Another red flag.
Yeah. So it's like all the siblings living together in a house, and they like he just didn't really have a future. And I think he had like a criminal. I don't know if he had I feel like he had a record. I can't remember. Maybe he was on probation or something. Or,
bro,
I know.
What kind of life decisions are these?
But I didn't. But it's kind of like when you meet someone, you're like, okay, this is new, this is exciting, right? But then you don't realize like how crazy they are until like you're with them. But like I said, we're only together for 1 year, and it progressed so quickly, and I had no idea. You know, you find out all these things about someone while you're already with them.
Yeah.
Right. So that's why it's like I think it's so important to date first and get to know someone before you make it official. And I didn't know to do that before. So,
well, it's easier nowadays. Nowadays, people do the online dating. It takes time and stuff.
And you kind of can filter the crazy out. But like, yeah, like I was just scared for my safety. And then I was driving my car. He didn't have a car. I don't even know. He probably had a license, just no car.
Okay.
Yeah. So he had a broken down car. But anyway, so I was driving him. I was trying to take him home, and he like was just like going crazy on me. Like he started an argument because I went to school, and he thought that I was out with some other guy cheating on him. And then like we just started arguing, and then I was driving, and then he kept pulling my e-brake up, and I'm like just driving, you know, and he's like making my car jerk, and I'm like getting so frustrated. And I'm like just scared for my safety. So I like hit him to like let go of the emergency brake. And then after that, like he punched me. And then he busted my lip.
What did you do when he punched you?
I started crying because I was so shocked. I was bloody everywhere.
Was it hard?
It was hard. Like he busted my lip, and I had blood all over my face. And it got to the point where I think like we pulled over and I couldn't drive anymore.
This is the Chris Bell and Rihanna situation.
Yeah.
You know that? This is like exactly what happened.
It was intense, and I couldn't drive anymore because I was bawling and I'm bleeding, right? So I think we stopped the car, and I probably go into the passenger side, and he's driving. And then there's this car full of guys, and they're just sitting with us, like next to us, and they're looking at me, and I'm crying in the mirror with all this, like through the window, with all this blood coming down. They're like concerned, and they're like, oh shit. But then he like puts the window down, and he starts cussing them out. He's that crazy. He put the window down, he starts cussing them out and threatening them. So they're just like, oh shit, we don't want to be a part of it. Like we're gone. So they leave. And then like after that happened, like I think he ended up driving himself home. And even after that...
How did you get home?
I probably drove myself after.
Wait, how did you get into separate cars?
No, we were still in my car, and he probably ended up driving himself home
Oh, in your car.
in my car.
I see.
Yeah, so I probably was able to like drive myself back home after that.
I'm surprised you didn't fuck him up.
I mean, so I hit him first, but because of what he was doing, like I didn't feel safe. But at the same time,
because yours is more like stop.
yeah, but
right?
I mean, I hit him in the face. Like I punched him in the face. But he's pulling on my e-brake while I'm trying to drive. I'm like, dude, you're gonna make us crash. Like something's gonna happen.
How many times did you pull it before you punched him?
A lot.
Okay, so
lot.
at first I'm like, wait, okay, I don't know if you deserved it or not because you punched him in the face, but hearing how many times he did that, I get it.
Yeah, because he did it like minimum 3 times. I'm trying to drive, right? And he's like
Yeah, you
pulling
guys
on
can
the brake
crash.
in the middle of driving. Like, why
Your
are you
car
doing
swerves
that?
and jerks all crazy when that happens.
And I'm like just trying to drive, you know? And like I don't even remember anything that happened after that. So it's like you're asking me like what happened, how did I get home and all this stuff, what did I do? I have no idea because I was so like traumatized from it. And even then he probably was still like not wanting me to go home and probably was begging for me to stay, you know? And just thinking back about everything that's happened like throughout the relationship, like he was the type of guy where it's like he had the craziest road rage ever. And I think that's why that's like a trigger for me whenever we are in the car, and if like people have road rage or if I get road rage, I try to stop it because like I'm traumatized from it. But like he would be the type of person that would like if he gets mad about something, he'll get something from the car and throw it at the other car, like on the freeway.
Yeah.
Like we've had my car get like hit with a golf club before from like other bald guys because he was bald also.
Yeah.
So it's just a lot of things all together. And I would say this is probably a hardship for me because I've never been hit before like that in a relationship, like ever. And like even though I was the one who hit him first, like I don't think it should have gone to that point for me to feel like I deserved it.
So what would you have done differently?
What would I have done differently? I probably would have left him sooner. But at the same time, it was really hard. And I think that this was one of my biggest hardships in my life because I felt like I couldn't let it happen, but I also had my family and my brothers and everyone else trying to support me to like leave him.
Yeah.
And like I would still like forgive him and still end up talking to him. And then that's like when my relationship with my brother got really bad. And that's when we stopped talking for a few years because he tried so hard to keep me away from this guy. But I was so stupid about it that I just kept like forgiving him and saying like it's okay. And like I would still talk to him.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't think there's ever been a point in my life except for that time and that relationship where like me and my brother just completely stopped talking.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because you know how close I am with my siblings.
Yeah.
So I think because of that, like it just made it really hard for me because yes, I got out of that relationship, but it traumatized me for a long time. And then I also had my brother that we were still living in the same house.
Yeah.
But we weren't talking and he would not talk to me, you know? So it was like hard for me.
Okay, so I have a question. Going through that situation in the car sounds like, I've heard other people go through something similar and stuff like that. So in that moment, what would you do differently for other people who are going through that?
Which moment? Like of him hitting me?
No.
Or
of him pulling the e-brake, you guys are arguing or whatever. Like, how would you do something differently or would you not?
I think...
Because what I'm trying to say is there's other people in the exact situation or might be in it soon. How can they avoid all this?
I think, honestly, I should have just kicked him out of my car. Like that.
Yeah, but he's not leaving, right?
I know, but I really don't know.
Call the cops? Then he's going to beat you for that?
Call the cops. He'd probably grab my phone and throw it out the car. And then maybe I would still get hit. You know, I have no idea.
How about say, okay, let me just take you home. So now it's keeping everything cool.
Right.
Let me just take you home as cool as can be, right?
Yeah.
And then after that, call cops, all that shit.
Yeah, maybe. So it's like trying to play it cool and be like, oh, okay, yeah, cool. Like instead of arguing, trying to just be level-headed and like have it in your mind where it's like, okay, well, okay, cool. Like try to get them to calm down, take him home, and then call the cops.
How come you didn't tell your brothers to kick his ass?
I mean, they wanted to, but I didn't want to get them involved because remember, my friend is his sister. So even
Don't
when you're saying to
matter.
call the cops, like I don't want to do that to their family because the sister's gonna go through it, and then their parents. Like I knew their whole family, and I didn't want to put them through that. You know, like who wants to see their brother getting arrested or getting the cops called on them?
Should you have talked to the sister to see what to do?
I think we talked. Yeah, we've talked, and then she was on my side. Like
Then there you go.
I know, but even then, like I was, like I said, I was being dumb, and I was like, oh, but I feel so bad. I don't want other people to like to see him like this, or like I don't want anything to happen.
That's
you know?
what's wrong with the Chinese culture, man.
Yeah.
The way we're raised and brought up, the parents always say, you know, when there's a problem and there's an issue, they say, oh, forget about
Let
it.
it
Forget
go,
about it.
yeah.
Let it go. And I get it. It's because when our parents were younger, they had to do that or they're going to get, you know, deported back or like, you know, they just want to move on and live their life, right?
Yeah.
But like the way they did that affects us today.
Yeah. I think he was actually on probation, and that's probably why I didn't call the cops. Like, I'm even thinking to the extent that he had like an ankle brace. Like,
Oh my God.
don't
Dude,
remember.
you
It
are
was-
so...
that's how bad it was.
Oh my God.
But then that's also what makes a person scary, that like you don't feel like you're safe enough to leave. That's how most domestic relationships are. Like when there's
Domestic abuse relationships.
yeah, like domestic violence, right? Like most victims don't leave because they're scared of what happened. And how many stories are we hearing today and every day of people wanting to get divorced and finally doing it after like thinking about it for how long, and then they get killed.
Yeah.
You know, like it's a scary thing for most people, and that's why a lot of people don't reach out because they're afraid of what's going to happen to them. So I didn't know what he was going to do. He's done a lot of crazy stuff.
Yeah.
So, you know, I just felt like I was stuck and I couldn't do anything.
So did that situation affect you for a long time?
I mean,
And like how would it affect you?
I feel like it did while I'm talking about it in the moment, but I think it affected me in a positive way, actually, where I'm like, okay, when I'm dating guys now, I know when I see a red flag, and I know when there's things that I should not let go of. So I raised my standards. I knew to look out for certain things. And if there were things that I had to question, or if I didn't feel comfortable or safe, like
Yeah.
I would know to just cut it off. So rather than being dumb and blinded by love, right? Like I would just know to be like, I'm not okay with this. Like I can't talk to you anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if anything, I'm traumatized talking about the whole situation, but in the end, I think I've learned a lot from it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds like the biggest loser of your life.
One
And,
of them. Yeah.
Now I understand your road rage thing because every time some shit happens when we're driving, you're always like, no, stop, let it go, stop honking.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, I have to honk so this person knows what they're doing and that it affects people. you
Yeah.
know?
But some people get so angry when you honk at them,
And-
even when they're wrong.
That's fine, you know? But they'll know over time in X amount of years that, oh, I keep getting honked at these things.
Yeah. But I think there's a difference with the honk, just to be like, hey. So they're like, oh shit. But if you do the honk,
Hey,
that's different.
If it gets really bad, it'll be a longer honk.
Yeah.
It depends how bad they are.
But I feel like people get so triggered by that. So it's like, it's not even worth it, especially when there's kids in the car. Like,
Yeah.
yeah. So, and I've been followed from flipping people off because they're like trying to like hit on me and like give me kissy faces and talk to me when I have like my little sister who is like, I don't know, like 8 years old in my car.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
So-
girls and guys driving is so different. If
Yeah.
something happened with me, it's like I'm gonna pull over and I'm gonna see what happens. If they drive off, all right, fuck you, go away.
Yeah.
If they pull over with me, let's go.
Mhm.
Let's get out. Let's go. You know what I mean? But it's not like I'm going to pull over, get out of the car, and attack him.
Yeah.
That's bad road rage. But like I'm down if the guy's down. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? So that's the difference between guys and girls. You guys are like, I don't know. It's for different reasons.
It's
and
different. I
it's wild.
pulled, I try to pull off of the freeway and get away because they kept following me because I was flipping them off because they're doing all these stupid, nasty things. And my sister was in the car
Yeah.
and then they wouldn't leave. So I was like, hey, I'm going to call the cops. And then they took off. So, yeah.
Crazy.
Yep.
Man. Okay, so those are that is pretty traumatizing,
It's
going
different
through
from,
physical abuse in
yeah.
a relationship. Um I'm glad you're in a good relationship now. You don't have to
I
go through
mean,
that.
just kidding. Yeah, I'm just
What?
kidding. Yeah, no, like that's a deal breaker for me. Like I would never let anyone ever get physical with me. And
So, from what I hear is the regret that you have
mhm.
sounds like don't let a guy get in the middle uh of your brothers and things like that,
Yeah, like
right?
don't let them affect other relationships that actually matter in your life because like it's hard for not only you but for the other person that's involved. It's like usually it always is someone that's never worth it, you
Yeah.
know. That's my biggest regret.
Yeah, these are some crazy stories, man. We
Mhm.
always got some crazy stories on this
I
podcast,
mean, I feel
man.
like everyone does.
Not everybody
True. I mean, I have never, even my whole life, I haven't experienced like four close deaths like yours.
in a month. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a lot.
So I have this other story, but I don't want to get to it because we're 40 minutes in right now,
Yeah.
and I think I want to save this for another episode.
Okay.
But that was like this story that I want to tell so badly right now is like it's affecting me till this day, and it's another death story.
Mm.
It's bad. It's another like really close friend and things like that. It's bad. It's bad. You guys just have to keep following this podcast, and I'll eventually talk about it. It's just too much right now. Um,
But I feel like we have so many other hardships to talk about. We can be here for like 2 hours talking about everything that
oh yeah,
we've been through.
we could probably talk about like every year of our life or something. I don't know, but we've been through some shit,
Yeah.
guys.
But I love
And
these podcast sessions because I feel like at the same time, it's like us kind of like having a therapy session with each other and like with you guys. And at the same time, it's like, it's kind of like a release in a sense and kind of also letting other people know that like if you've experienced it, you're not alone. Like
yeah,
we've all gone through it. And it's kind of learning on like ways of healing because there's no ways of avoiding hardships in your life.
I think in the end, everyone, when you're going through hardships, it seems like the world is ending, and you just have to take a step back and just take a step back and take a breath.
Yeah.
That's it.
And I think when it comes to like going through losses and especially like the amount of deaths that you have, I feel like it is traumatizing, but it should also be an enlightening experience where it's like trying to show you to value life more, to value the people in your life more, because like at any given day, like anyone could just be gone.
Here's my biggest advice for anyone who's lost someone recently and they can't really get over it. Um, you have to, because I've seen the people who can't get over it and it has mentally affected them to be, you know, hard to be with, mental breakdowns and whatnot. And like they become this whole another person. They can't function. And so you have to get through these things for yourself. If not, you'll have a very hard life.
Yeah.
So you got to just always take a step back. I know it's very serious when someone close to you is gone, but you can't let it affect you in a way where it's going to hurt you. Okay. So if you guys have any questions or need some advice, you can always DM us on Instagram and we'll try to help you out, or comment on these videos and we'll try to help you out.
And I do want to stress like how important I feel like this advice that you're giving out is, because you've gone through so many deaths in your life. And I feel like I've only experienced that one that you know about with my godbrother. And that was the hardest for me. So like hearing you say all these things, I think if it wasn't for your insight and experiences, like I would not have been able to get through the whole process as I did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll find a way to talk about those two when the time comes. I don't know how to talk about that yet.
Yeah.
I'll tell you real quick about what it is. It's just, one of my closest friends that I've had for, I don't know, 18 years, committed suicide. And that was the next most difficult time, if not
Yeah.
became the most difficult time of my life. So we'll talk about that next time. Make sure you guys follow us on all of the podcast platforms. Show us some support. Spotify, Apple, Amazon, Google, iHeartRadio, YouTube. Um, Also, on Instagram, Love and Rice Podcast, TikTok. We love, hearing from you guys. And this episode was not so love and rice. It was more of fucked up and rice. So
Facts.
we'll see you guys next time. And we hope you enjoyed this episode.
Bye, guys.